See Michael Rutter. He'll be getting his lid on in the next minute or two, and we will be out for a free practice session, and there'll be about a 30-minute break, I think it is, and then we will have the one and only qualifying session for this year's Macau Motorcycle Grand Prix. We were, of course, supposed to have got this underway 48 hours ago, but the weather has played its hand, and no one is more experienced at Macau than Michael Rutter, down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, just having his picture taken right now. Speaking to him last night, and he was saying he's never known, in the 30 years he's been coming to Macau, he's never known an event like it. We've had postponement after postponement after postponement. Paul Williams back at Macau again this year, but alongside Michael Rutter there, his teammate in the MGM FHO Batham's team, Craig Neve. Most of the riders have their plans. You'll see many will go out over race distance in this free practice. There's no times will be recorded, but every second is crucial. Even if we had got things underway 2 days ago, it was exactly the same. A lot of the riders are going out on race tyres as well, as we look at Matt Stevenson in the Dappervet racing team, but no qualifiers or whatever. It will be racing tyres from the word go. Michael Rutter there saying, come on, let's go. We have 2.5 minutes before pit lane opens, and they head out as well. Most of the riders on Pirellis or Metzlers. We've got 4 riders, I believe, on Dunlops. One has a set of Michelins with him. We'll come to that as we go through the practice session. The one advantage that they have had, if it is an advantage, is that the road has now been swept by the cars over the last 2 days. However, you don't know. I mean, there were 7 red flags in the Formula Regional session yesterday, which ultimately put this back. There's one of our 3 former winners of the Macau Grand Prix, Erno Costomo from Finland, triumphant in 2022. And Sam West as well, back at Macau, a regular competitor here. But as I was saying, all the dust has been cleared away. However, how greasy the surface is, we are about to find out, or certainly the riders will find out as well. As I was saying, most will go with a race distance fuel load, and the first 2 laps at Macau on a motorbike with a heavy fuel tank, a full fuel tank. It's, the riders will tell you, it's yeah, you'll be holding your breath a lot of the time. It takes a couple of laps for the weight to really come down, and there's our champion, our defending champion, Peter Hickman, looking for win number 5 this year, and has to start as red-hot favourite. And he has,
1 minute.
There's Paul Jordan, who is racing with the Jackson team here in Macau, but Peter Hickman starts as red-hot favourite. However, he has, as his teammate this year, the man who finished second to him at last year's Macau Motorcycle Grand Prix, and that is Davey Todd. There's Julian Trummer just in the shot momentarily. So here we go, folks, 30 seconds until that klaxon sounds. And we will get things underway finally here. So initially I thought we might have had free practice this morning and qualifying at the end of the day, but they are deciding that they're doing it right away here. So free practice followed by a short break, and then it will be qualifying, and the race tomorrow will have a warm-up lap and then a little period of time for the riders to make any adjustments after that warm-up lap tomorrow for the race. It is actually open pit lane. You can see the clock is counting down. Here we go, and we've seen the odd rider in the past wait, but they are all going out together. Here we go. At last, we have the sound of superbikes and superstock machines going around Macau. The last big road racing hurrah of the year. And in terms of machinery, we have 3 superbikes out there. Peter Hickman's on a superbike. Michael Rutter is on a superbike. In fact, Michael Rutter is on the same superbike that Josh Brooks rode last year. And the other superbike rider is Rob Hodson on the SMT machine, and it's an ex-Michael Dunlop bike. 2023 Hawk Racing Michael Dunlop machine, which is practically brand new. And the only other one is Erno Costomo, who I think has a superbike chassis and a super stock engine. But everyone else on super stock machinery. There were a few little drops of rain this morning, but we are not expecting anything to fall down. There is the one odd cloud around, but we should have a rain-free morning. But a lot of these riders, even though the times don't count, they will be treating this almost as a qualifying session. In fact, as I mentioned before, they'll be treating it almost as race distance. I know Michael Rutter is planning to go race distance before he comes in. The race distance, of course, is 12 laps. Rob Hodson, he was telling me that he's looking to do 6 or 7 laps, then he will come in. Peter Hickman was fastest in qualifying last year. Ahead of David Todd and Costomo. Peter Hickman coming out of Fisherman's Bend, coming down to the final turn. And it is such a crucial bend, Fisherman's. I mean, every bend is crucial, of course, but get the drive right out of Fisherman's, and it's pretty impossible to be overtaken from that moment on. So here we go, across the line now. They just keep away, just on this right-hand side, the left-hand side of the pitch as we look at it. There are a few drains, etc., and the road just bends away, so they like to just try and keep it to the left as much as they can, and then down here. Up to 6th gear, then knock it back to 5th through Mandarin. And this really, through this bend, this right-hand turn here at Mandarin, a lot of the bikes are geared especially for that turn. That's the crucial one. Into Lisboa. You're doing, normally at race speed, they're doing 190 mile an hour plus. They hit the 250-meter mark to brake. Then out of Lisboa, then here at San Francisco. Just at the top here, at full speed, both wheels leave the ground. Just on that little rise that we just saw there, both wheels take off. Very scary. The riders will tell you how scary that is at the top there as they go into turn 5 and then round into Maternity. Then they come round to Teddy Yip, which is, I think, where Peter Hickman slid off on his debut in 2014 during practice. Somewhere around there, and then all through this section, 2nd gear through turns 8, 9, 10, 11. It's just in 2nd gear. Then just as they get up to police, it's a nip into 3rd. Then back down into 2nd for Moorish, the right-hand turn. Hickman and Rutter leading the way on the road. But you see they're just avoiding the left-hand side, but you might see them just hook that a little bit more into Donna Maria as they then go down into 1st gear for Melco. Then up into 2nd, into 3rd, into 4th, now into 5th gear. And they'll tell you it's so bumpy along this section and very scaring as they All they can see is what looks like a wall with all the black and yellow ahead of them. It just looks like one big wall, like a dead end. So they're doing about 150 plus into that. Then this is the final turn as they start another lap. Second, third, fourth, fifth gear into our bend, back into third. Then fourth, fifth gear as they go across the line. And nip back to fourth if you've been in fifth. Got to watch out for that negative camber as well. Just on that final turn, it really turns in on itself, if that makes sense. We'll talk about a few of the riders in a moment. So far, so good. Everybody behaving themselves, which is good to see. We have 20 riders on the grid this year. 7 of them are newcomers, which is pretty much a third. No one knows this place better than the man leading the round at the moment, Michael Rutter. So yeah, it's Sam Johnson, 54. He's the rider that's on Dunlop tyres. Of course, Michael Rutter on Metzler. Peter Hickman letting another rider go past. Hickman looking, as I said earlier, for win number 5. Rutter's won 9 times at Macau. Ron Haslam's won 6. Peter Hickman 4. Stuart Easton still the lap record holder as well with 4 wins. And also what he'll be learning right now, because the track can change year upon year. You will get some years when the tyres will be wrecked after just a few laps. Just that little bump there, just wear it on the stop sign. A little bit of decompression. But yeah, you've got to, some years your tyres will go well as Rob Hodgson goes through and Paul Jordan. And I say there are other times as they come down into the final bend. They'll know now if there are any little damp patches anywhere. There shouldn't be. But also as well with Macau, it's always expanding, always growing. And sometimes with more and more tall buildings going up, parts that used to dry off in the sun don't dry off as quick anymore because the sun can't get to them. It's blocked out by the skyscrapers. So Hickman has come into the pit, which is interesting. He's obviously wants some little adjustment making. They were one of the teams I think were looking to do race distance. Costomo, the flying fin. He was just drifting a little bit out into Fishman's there, and you just saw it just kick up as he studied up. So Erno Costomo. It is a superbike engine. I think I said the other way around before. It is a superbike engine, a stock chassis. He's got, he's going with a Metzler 1 on the front and a rear 0. Of course, the king of Imatra, and he raced at Froberg this year. Didn't take part in the International Road Racing Championship, but certainly made big steps at the Isle of Man TT. Really, really popular rider. So one of the fair few little run-offs there as we're looking from Michael Rutter. So just coming around Donna Maria. And just on the inside here, you'll just see it might just see, not really, just the camera didn't quite catch it. It really drops away on the inside of the Melco hairpin. So again, this is the section really bumpy, flying down towards Fisherman's, the penultimate bend on the corner. But certainly Michael Rutter taking it easy. Again, they just hug that wall. So there is Peter Hickman is in. So there will be an adjustment being made. He won't be having a... Oh, that's what it is. And that's why Michael Rutter was slowed down. There's no sign here. But yeah, there's a few spots of rain. And a red flag is out, my goodness. But that will be because of the conditions. But... And what a wise thing to do. You can just see there on the shield, just the odd little sprinkle. And you can see how shiny that rear is as well. So that is out on, would be a little bit higher up. There is elevation in this course, all through that section that I was talking about before, that is second gear. That is a little bit higher than down here at pit lane. Let's have a look at that. So a little sprinkle up there, they'll come in. Now, I would expect the clock to have stopped. Ryan Whitehall on bike 361, just pulling over. Just going to try and see if I can find out where that is. So there's Julian Trummer, the Austrian rider, teammate to Paul Jordan this year at Jackson Racing. And it's a shame really, because the riders do not have any wet tyres, and also, as I've mentioned many times over the years, even if they did have wet tyres, Macau is not the place to go riding in the wet. Some talent in that picture right now. 13 race wins between them. Mikey Evans with the Dafabet Racing team as well. Thumbs up, so everyone's quite happy. However, happy with what they've done so far, but... And also it's a shame really, because it wrecks a little bit of a plan to go race distance, see how the bike performs, what they need to do. And that's having that cut short. Again, the clock is still ticking down. Whether, if they do reopen pit lane again, whether we'll get that time back or whether it's eating into it now. It could well be that just because it is free practice, the clock will be ticking. If it's a qualifying session, then things will be different. Sam West, another Macau Grand Prix regular. And I think Sam's one of the few riders that's on Dunlop as well. Paul Jordan with his team boss at Jackson Racing. Almeric Blanc, the Frenchman, Team Gas. As you can see, not much room in these garages. 4 bikes to a garage. The SMT boss Robin Croft just sat down looking on. So it's a shame really, because they do want to get up to speed quick here at Macau. You know, with some events somewhere they'll have the luxury of trying things out, etc., but not here. It is crucial to be up to speed as quickly as you can. Look at that, you can see how tight it is for space in these garages. I'm trying to see if we can pick up off the camera microphone. The body language is good anyway. And it's such is the nature of Macau, a lot of them don't use braking markers around the track because it's just a sea of, or a blur of black and yellow. It's just more about a feel and knowing when to hit the brakes. Also, it's a track with very few overtaking opportunities. Into Lisboa is good. You might get through at Mandarin, start and the finish, the last bend. Then after that, it really is just a train all the way around until they come down into the Macau hairpin. Danny Horn with an endless supply of Yorkshire tea here in Macau. But yeah, they rarely use markers apart from Lisboa. One of the most crucial turns on the circuit. It's so bumpy into Lisboa as well. If the rear lifts, you have to let go of the brakes and then kick the brakes back in hard. And normally, you would have seen by now, had the red flag not come out, you would have seen quite a few running on at Lisboa. And that's because they're just seeing how long or how late they can leave it on the brakes going into that turn. And also, just as they come out of Lisboa and then come into San Francisco, they go under the bridge, then up San Francisco Hill, and going up the hill, it's a lot of rear braking, because you have to touch that rear brake to keep the front down, on the superbike especially, just to keep that front down, because as I mentioned about 10 minutes ago, both wheels will be up in the air momentarily. Just looking at the back of Davey Todd, he's on the super stock bike that Peter Hickman rode at this year's TT. The bike actually that finished, as we look at Lauren Hoffman, the bike that Davey Todd is on is the one that Hickman rode to second place at the Isle of Man TT, that Davey Todd won the Superstock race. And the interesting thing as well, a lot of the riders, there's the Metzler one, the same with the Dunlops, but they go with the one on the front and the softer 0 on the rear. But Davey Todd tends to go with a 1 on the rear, which he's done all year. He's got Stuart and Andy with him as well, helping him out. And it's the same Superstock bike, by the way, that Connor Commins rode at Armoy this year. So that's the machine that Davey Todd is on. Jackson boys with Paul Jordan. "40 minutes still on the clock here for this free practice session." Erno Costomo was the fastest in that. Not that it really means too much at this stage. Rob Hodson was second fastest. Michael Rutter was third quickest. Luca Gottardi, the Italian, he was fourth fastest, ahead of Paul Jordan and Peter Hickman. But the good news is everybody got out. Davey Todd, second slowest, if there is such a thing as second slowest. He was 19th fastest over that very limited time we had. And also as well, good to see the newcomers riding sensibly on their first time here at Macau. As you can see there, just a little bit on the inside of the turn was dry, just on the outside was wet. Whether it's going to dry up in time, I'm not going to say anything about that. But it's the when it comes to the mullet wars, I think Matt Stevenson just gets the edge over Davy Todd. So let's see who we got around here at the moment. Mikey Evans talking to crew chief Danny Horn at Dafabet. They're running stock machines. Metzler's one on the front, Zero's on the back. Using Maxton suspension, Kit Electronics.
FHO Racing. Michael Rutter is also with the FHO team, chasing an incredible 10th victory around
Six Sam West.
And Craig Neve is back as
on
well
the Motor Hub machine.
Racing,
one of the many BMWs that are here at Macau this year. Got the odd Yamaha and Suzuki. But again, it's a field dominated by BMW riders. Julian Trimmer on the Honda CBR. So I'm sorry to report, at the moment, at least we've had a little bit of traction on track. But with half an hour, well, just over half an hour to go, unless they're going to get some dryers out on the circuit. But there has not ever been a Macau Motorcycle Grand Prix like this for many, many years. Certainly not since I've been coming here. In the 20 odd plus years, known anything like this. We've seen races put back. Remember in 2012, the race pretty much being run under street lights. By the time the checkered flag came out, I think the street lights had come on with due to delays, etc. But generally, this time of year, we don't have conditions such as these. And even in the years when we've had the odd bit of rain, that's it. Over the 4 days of competition, a little shower somewhere, but not to the extent that we've had rain every day. In the few days that I've been here, we've had one day, I think, where we've had no rain. We saw Peter Hickman a moment ago. He's on the superbike, the same bike that he rode in BSB and the Isle of Man TT this year, and one of 4 riders that I'm aware of who is on Dunlops. There is his crew chief Darren Jones talking to Michael Rutter's crew chief John McAvoy. But Hickman using an MS1 front and an MS0 on the rear, which he always runs soft. And what I will need to find out, and people still don't believe me, but it's incredible as it is, the way his BMW was set up last year, you would see him coming into Lisboa and taking his foot off the peg, and it wasn't for balance. As Mervyn White and other officials have had an inspection on the track, so they'll be letting the riders know what it's like. So we'll try and see if we can pick up anything off the camera microphone. Well, that was a thumb up, unless he was calling them over. Here we go. Go on, cameraman. Get some work. Do some good work here. Let's see if we can find out. Oh, I think what they might be doing is putting them in the car and taking them round. So we will have a further delay. It is Sector 3, which is the area where that is the worst. Now, Sector 3, that is all the way up from maternity through to Teddy Yip, all the way to police. It's all second gear around there. So it is Sector 3. The highest part on the circuit. That's where the elevation is. So Sector 3, so they come down as they're coming out of pit lane now. It's down through Mandarin into the tight right hand of the famous Lisboa, then up the hill at San Francisco, and they get to the top of the hill. From there, all the way through, that is where it is wet. Sorry, we don't have anything more exciting to show you right now than these pictures of the riders coming out. I don't know if that was a small dog popping its head out of the window there, or maybe it was Michael Rutter. Just looking from my commentary position here onto the start-finish straight. It does look damp here as well, but windscreen wipers are always a good giveaway as well, aren't they? So down into Mandarin. You see there's no wipers being used. So this is down into Lisboa, and this is what I was talking about before with Peter Hickman. So normally you would see him coming into this right foot off the peg, and not because it's for balance or getting around the corner. It's because the peg, because of where it was positioned, or I should say where everything else was positioned on the bike, heat would go into that peg, it would go up into his boot, and so he would take his foot off the peg just to get some relief, and then his foot would cool down enough that it would start heating up again. A lot of people think that's some sort of ruse, but yeah, that's but now on this year's bike, whether that's still an issue or not, I'm not too sure, but we will find out before the race. I think that could be Horst Seiger that's cheering and talking to Michael and to Peter as well. So an inspection here, this is just on the inside of Lisboa. And Macau, of course, is a circuit that commands respect. And that is exactly why Paul Jordan, Peter Hickman and Michael Rutter are out looking at the moment, but they're going to have a look now further up the road. But Horst Seiger has brought many race fans here from his home country. And when Michael Rutter speaks at Macau, everybody listens. 9 times a race winner here at the Macau Motorcycle Grand Prix. Good job, none of them are too tall or too big to get into the car. As I was saying, yeah, Horse Tiger's brought a delegation here. I know they were at Lisboa yesterday, very disappointed not to see any motorcycle action, as we all were. However, I would imagine that it was he that gave them a little shout. Now then, under the bridge there, you can just see where the shadow is. And I'll never forget standing there when Michael Rutter went through on the RCV a few years ago. So here you can see now, the camera really levels this out. This is quite steep. It does climb. It climbs and it climbs and it climbs. And as I was saying, on the super bikes, and this is where they'll start hitting the wet part of the road, they have to use the rear brake on the climb up the hill. And then you see that little rise there, both wheels off the ground. And yeah, that is one of the top of San Francisco, the riders tell you, one of the scariest parts on this track. So going up through turn 5, turn 6 into Maternity. No wiper action on the race control cars. But again, just look at that. It looks like it's dry on the inside. I know I'm pointing at the screen, you can't see me pointing. And it looks a little bit damp there. So we come into Teddy Yip, turn 8, turn 9. And this is sector 3. This is the part where it was wet. Well, certainly it was wetter than elsewhere. Have we ever known a Macau Motorcycle Grand Prix like this one? No, is the straight answer to that. And they all have just one tyre choice, and that's a slick tyre. Effectively, there you can see again, it looks like little dry bits just on the inside, under trees, etc., where the rain hasn't got to it. I'm not sure about this one, folks. But again, little, you just see the elevation there as they come down now, coming round towards the approach down to Melco. Through Moorish. And then into Donna Maria. You see we're still losing a little bit of altitude. Look, and you see there as well where the cars are being parked. You see those horrible, nasty oil and all sorts of liquids that have been dumped on the inside, and that's why we saw a lot of the riders just when they were coming around avoiding the areas there, those car parking spaces on the road. And even with a couple of days of car action here as well, you can still see where everyday traffic has dumped stuff onto the surface. You just see that's there, that stop sign there, the compression, especially in the rear. You've got to keep it upright as much as you can on the bike. Otherwise you can get through here, a little bit of a tank slapper. The pads really have to be in the right place for braking. And as I mentioned earlier, it's amazing how much of a difference a full tank of petrol makes to the way the bike handles around Macau. But after a couple of laps and it starts losing a little bit of weight, it becomes a lot easier to control. So hopefully we'll have a camera, well, we will have a camera in pit lane. Hopefully we'll be able to pick up anything that's said. But again, this is all valuable time that they're losing. And we are due to have a qualifying session immediately after free practice is over. So we'll have to rely on body language, folks, to begin with, unless we can pick something up. I don't know if you were aware, we were due to have a cyclone hit Macau the other night, 2 nights ago. It hit Hong Kong, it was on its way to Macau. A Typhoon 8 warning was in place, and a Typhoon 8 is effectively no one is allowed out, let alone cars or bikes on racetracks. One of the main men at Metzler Tyres in the picture there, just next to John McAvoy. Just talking to John McAvoy from FHO. Jim Warland, his first ever trip to Macau. So some riders are on Metzlers, some riders are on Pirellis, effectively from the same factory. What's the difference? Well, a Metzler designed for road racing, then out of picture I can just see Paul Jordan and Michael Rutter and Peter Hickman. The cars are not coming back down, they're outside of pit lane. They've now got a little bit of a walk down. They're just coming past my commentary point now. But the Pirelli tyres generally are a World Superbike tyre, if I could say that, and the Metzlers are what you would see on the roads, the Isle of Man TT, the Northwest 200, etc, etc. So as you'd imagine, Paul Jordan, Peter Hickman and Michael Rutter talking amongst themselves. Even if I could lip read, they're too far away, but there'll be about a minute or so by the time they get down to the picture you're looking at the moment. Will it be shakes of heads or whatever? We'll find out in a moment. Interesting, when you look over the years, how the times have come down. Go back to 1995, Phil McCallan, when they raced 500s around here. He was the fastest in qualifying, 2 minutes 35 seconds, just a shade inside 2 minutes 36. 30 years on, they are now lapping. In fact, who was that? Was it 2:23? I think was the fastest. Well, I don't know if it's an age thing or not, but Michael Rutter seems to have lost a little bit of ground on Peter Hickman and Paul Jordan when he's whether he's struggling to keep up with the younger boys, I don't know. Yeah, Glenn Irwin, of course. How could I have forgotten Glenn Irwin when he qualified here with that 2:23.0 back in 2017, which I think is still the fastest unofficial lap of Macau. Stuart Easton still holds the lap record. Oh, there we go. There's the... Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear. This is a big headache. 20 minutes to go to the end of free practice. But will... Again, I'm shutting up just because I want to see if I can hear anything.
Like you say, we will bring you confirmation of that as the clock kicks down here in the free practice session for the Macau Motorcycle Grand Prix. 20 minutes still to go in this session. And across the road is the boy on it from the start. 4 laps completed for him.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see if I can hear anything. Feiho, team principal of the MGM FHO racing team. And there's Mr. Macau talking to Mr. Macau, Patrick and Michael. If anyone can lip read, please get in touch.
David Todd, actually a second place man.
But yeah, so we were due to have a qualifying session following this, which is still on the schedule. And it could still go ahead.
So let's just go through the leaderboard from the early stages of that session. And Costomo, top of the time, the 2022 Macau Motorcycle Grand Prix winner, ahead of Rob Hodgson.
But will the road dry quickly enough? That is the problem here at Macau. And where could they fit it into the schedule? Yeah, that's even though he's got a bit of a green, it's a little bit of a succumbing to the situation look there from Peter Hickman. Incredible. And I believe the forecast for the rest of the day is quite good. And the issue we had yesterday as well, the pre-practice session was due to go at the end of yesterday's timetable. However, with so many red flags in the Formula Regional qualifying session, 7 in all, it just meant there was no time left for the bikes to get out. So even if the bikes could get out later today, it could be a similar situation.
Wonderful from body language that we can see down there in the pits. There wasn't thumbs down.
The race was due to take place but that's been put back to Sunday. Let's have a little bit of nostalgia then. So looking back over the years,
very shortly when we have more information.
As I say, Philip McCallan, 2 minutes 35. The time then started coming down. Mike Edwards did a 2:34 in 96. Andy Hoffman, remember Andy Hoffman on the Kawasaki? A 2:32. And then John McGuinness in 2001 on the Honda. The first to go inside 2.5 minutes in qualifying at Macau. John, of course, missing from the lineup again this year. Will we ever see John McGuinness back at Macau? He signed up for the Isle of Man TT next year, so he will be racing once more. And Michael Rutter did a 2:27 on the Ducati back in 2003. And he became the first rider, along with Thomas Hinterreiter, another name from the past, to go inside 2 minutes 27 in qualifying back in 2007. And then Connor Cummins went even faster with a 2:26.5 back in 2008. And then Stuart Easton in 2009 inside 2:26, the first one to go inside 2:26 in 2009. And then incredible in 2010. Stuart Easton and Michael Rutter both inside 2:24 back in 2010. And Rutter did it again in 2011. And that was the fastest until Glenn Irwin on the Ducati in 2017. A shade outside of 2 minutes 23. Just 0.08 of a second off going inside 2 minutes 23 back in 2017. Hickman then did a 2:23.9 the following year. And those have been our fastest qualifying times over the years. So course inspection cars are back out. Peter Hickman won the Grand Prix last year from Davey Todd and David Datzer. Datzer not here as well this year. Datzer was also on the podium in 2022 behind Erno Costomo and Sheridan Marai. And 2019, a bit of a controversial year, that one as well. Rutter taking the win from Peter Hickman, with Dave O. Johnson on the podium. That was race that was shortened and red flagged. Hickman also won in 2018. Glenn Owen, his solo win at Macau in 2017. Hickman made his debut in 2014. In 2015 he came and he won. In only his second year at this circuit. 2015 he won again in 2016. Stuart Easton, his final appearance, that incredible year in 2014. And of course we can't forget in 2013 the incredible performance as well by Ian Hutchinson. After everything that he'd gone through, for him to come back and win that year was just, that was one of the miracle rides. One of the great stories that Macau can often bring to motorcycle racing. Rutter was the winner in 2011 and 2012. Stuart Easton with a hat-trick of wins from 2008 to 2009 and 2010. And Steve Plater would not forgive me if I didn't mention the fact that he won in 2006 and 2007. And boy, did he have some battles as well on the track, especially with the likes of John McGuinness. Rutter, 4 wins on the bounce, 2002 to 2005. John McGuinness, just the 1 win at Macau. Phil McGuinness back in 2001. And just the 1 win as well for David Jeffries, the great David Jeffries back in 1999. Rutter with victories in 1998 and 2000. And when we look at 1997, and the last non-Brit before Costomo 2 years ago, Andy Hoffman, winner in 1997, beating McCallan and Higby. McCallan the winner in 1996, his solo victory at Macau. Mike Edwards took the win ahead of McCallan back in 1995. Steve Hislop was the man at Macau in 1993 and 1994, as he had been earlier in 1990. And just a 1 win in 1992 for a certain Carl Fogarty. Didier de Radiguet was the winner in 1991. I'm not going to go back any further, folks. I know I'm stretching this out as best as I can with just under 12 minutes on the clock left. But it seems to be 2 things now. A case of this circuit drying out as quickly as possible, and also no more rain. Listen to those tyres screech. Hopefully in between I will get the opportunity. So I know there's not much going on at the moment, folks, but what I will try and arrange is to go down to pit lane and have a chat with some of the riders before the qualifying session. So if you need to nip out now, put the kettle on, whatever. Maybe we can do a bit of family favourites while we wait. And say hello to Gary Johnson. There's Johnson, another former competitor here at Macau, not here this year. Had that big crash last year in the Czech Republic. And yeah, he and quite a few of his pals watching back home in the UK. And I've just had a message from him saying a big shout out to Michael Rutter. Without the practice, he says he thinks Michael Rutter P2 is more than possible at his decomposable age. Wow. So Michael Rutter ahead of Davey Todd. Interesting. Michael Rutter, of course, I think he turns 53 come April next year. Been cutting back on his racing. He was British Superbike Championship runner-up around 20 years ago. won the same number of Island Man TT races as his father, the former Formula 2 world champion Tony Rutter, sadly no longer with us. I don't know whether these cars are drying out the surface or what, but yeah, look at the oil patches there where the cars have parked. It will, well, normally it would improve. The more rubber that gets put down, especially by the single-seater cars, but it all gets washed away this year with the rain. Hey! Famous for 2 seconds. I know one rider who had to change his plans. He was due to have an operation on Monday and was due to fly out after the race, which was scheduled for today, but it's now been put back to tomorrow. And that's Craig Neve, who had an off at the Isle of Man TT this year. Thought it was just a damaged knee. Returned to racing and then found out later on, and is often the way, but found out that he had picked up a shoulder injury as well. So he'd been riding with an injured shoulder. That needs fixing. Got Mark Harmer alongside him and his dad Andy. They're on the stock superbike. Sorry, the super stock bike that they used from the Isle of Man TT this year. Another on Metzler's. He'll be starting with a 1 on the front and a 0 on the rear. His best result was back in 2019. He got 9th. But he was telling me he has superbike calipers on the rear of the machine. Made his debut in 2018. Yeah, he had that knee injury. Came off at Greba at the Isle of Man. And I don't know if you've ever seen the video when they were trying to clean the wound, and they used live maggots to eat away, which I believe didn't really work. But after the Manx Grand Prix, discovered that he'd almost, well, yeah, really damaged his shoulder, and the surgeon just said, "Flip me, it's a mess." So this is his 3rd time at Macau. He was due to have an operation on Monday. He's now had to change his flights and will fly back on Monday and have the operation at a later date. So the word I'm getting is that it's wet from Lisboa to the pits. The driest part is pit lane, as we can see. I mentioned Gary Johnson there before. I think his best result was a 4th place back in no, he was on the podium, wasn't he? Sorry, Gary. Yeah, you were on the podium back in 2013 alongside Ian Hutchinson and Michael Rutter. Quite a few top 6 positions or finishes to his name. So it's not looking good, folks. That's the unfortunate situation. But as I say, don't go away, because what I will do, I'll go down to pit lane and have a chat with Peter Hickman, Paul Jordan, Michael Rutter. Can't see any spots there. As I say, pit lane, which is sea level, bone dry. But even a circuit that's just under 4 miles in length. Can be just like any others. It can be dry and sunny one place. That personal best lap, 2:41, obviously that is this morning. Familiar face to all road racing fans. Getting an autograph from Julian Trummer. Just admiring his tattoos there. They'll be good when they're finished. So I'm going to try and arrange to get down to pit lane and speak with the riders, get a flavour of what's going on. It is one big family. You can see how all the riders and teams are mingling. Cecilia Rutter, daughter of Michael Rutter, on the left of the screen as we look at it. And still waiting, of course, because a decision has to be made on what's going to happen. But one thing that it can't do is just send bikes out on a wet track. It's just not possible. So, but they can't bring the cars forward. That is not an option. So they might as well have the time that they have allocated to let conditions improve. But this is unusual for Macau. Normally every year the roads are dry. Rain at this time of year is highly unusual. Some work on the front brakes. Cars back out again. Sorry for this, folks. Everyone normally would be gearing up for qualifying, but will we get a qualifying session in this morning? It looks okay here, which it is. But from this point on, Lisboa, this climb going up through San Francisco. As I say, the one thing that generally in the past, because of the humidity and the heat, and it's not been as hot this year as it has in previous years, as we now get the checkered flag being waved to signal the end of free practice. At least they've had a lap or two. But whereas now they've built and the construction keeps going on at Macau, and Macau, it will be great when it's finished. They just keep building and building and building. It's never ending, the building in this part of the world. But now, whereas in the past, as I mentioned earlier, the road would dry out quicker. Now the sun and what have you doesn't get to these parts that are in the shade, and they stay damp a little bit longer than they used to. Just trying to get information for you folks to find out what is going on. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Stay with us, even though I'm going to be silent for the next minute or two. I'm going to go down to pit lane, get the latest, get an idea of whether we will have a qualifying session here at Macau. So bear with me, folks. I'll be with you, talking to you hopefully in 2 minutes' time.